that are tuning in to us. My name is Terry Williams. I'm President and Chief Operating Officer, as well as owner of OneUnitedBank, the largest Black-owned bank in the country. I know there's always a question out there, is OneUnited truly Black-owned? And I always pop my face out and say, yeah, see, that's it. I own OneUnited with my husband, who also is Black. So, and we have really been blessed to provide financial services to urban communities. We are here in Boston today. We also have been in Miami and Los Angeles, and we have customers all around the country. So today, we have a wonderful panel, and we are going to be talking about how we can buy the block. I like to say, how are we going to take our community back? How are we going to ensure that the gentrification that is happening in urban communities today still represents the diversity that we know and that we have, we've been here, you know, whether it's here in Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, Jamaica Plain, or whether it's in Compton or Liberty City, really across Harlem, really across the country, our communities have become popular. And what we want to talk about is how we can buy the block, how we can continue to buy in our community. I'm going to start with a personal story, and then I'm going to introduce our guests. About 20 years ago, a friend of mine called me, and she had just had a baby. And she and her husband became separated, and he had left their home, their apartment. And then in addition to that, her landlord contacted her and told her that he was going to raise the rent. So she called me, and just having a baby, separated from her husband, and now with a landlord that was going to raise the rent, and she was trying to figure out what she should do. Should she try to find another apartment, or what she, you know, how she should handle the situation? And I said to her, I said, you know, have you thought about buying? And I said, you know, I had a sense of what her rent was, and I said, I don't know your whole financial situation, but have you thought about buying? And it was almost like that question sort of lit a flame, or a light bulb went off. And she said, no, you know, I haven't, but maybe I should. And I'm going to make a long story short. She ended up buying a home. She and her husband did, unfortunately, get divorced, but she raised her son in the home that she bought, and he's now, you know, 20 years old. I say that story because sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes that's all it takes, is for us to plant the seed in our family and our friends, plant the seed in our own mind about the possibility of buying real estate, of home ownership. And what I'm going to ask is, not only do we talk about it here today, but that you all talk about it to your family and friends. And don't assume that someone has thought of it, because a lot of times, if you're not raised in a family that, you know, that owned homes, it's something that you don't think about. So I have here this evening 3 wonderful guests. We have Terrence Williams, who, no relation. Our names are very close. We don't know that. That's true.
Well, we are related.
Yes, we are related. Who is a real estate investor here in Boston. We have Thaddean Brown, who is with the Massachusetts Alliance of Affordable Housing. Why did I get that name wrong? Yes, Massachusetts Affordable Housing Alliance. Thank you, MAHA. I always know you as MAHA. And is also a homeowner. And we have Cortina Van, who is also with MAHA and is also a homeowner. And they're going to talk to us about their experience, how they became real estate investors and homeowners, and basically give some ideas on how how we collectively can buy the block. So I'm going to start with you, Terrence. If you could share your personal story and how you became a real estate investor.
Well, I became an investor. Growing up in Mission Hill Development and working for the city of Boston, I decided to have a 5-year plan that I always establish. And one of my plans was to move out of Mission Hill and to own my own home. So I did that. I left Mission Hill when I was 20 years old. I moved to Harbor Point, stayed in Harbor Point for about like 4 years, and they was raising the rent. The rent that they was raising, so I said, well, I can buy me a house. And so that's what I did. At the age of 23, I bought me a house. I bought a 3-family house, which only family members live in, because my mother, my father at the time passed away. My brothers, my sisters, we all stayed in that house, and we always kept it a family house. Me and my father, before he passed away, we were supposed to have bought more property and fixed up, not sell, just fix up, rent them out, and just kept the chain going. So we can pass something on to the next generation. And we was gonna establish in a will that they can't sell the property because we wanted to keep it in the family. Whether they want it or not, then they can just pass it on to the next person or the next generation to come. So during the time when he had passed away, I said, well, I don't want to stop doing what we planned that we was going to do. So I got back on the phone, talked to my real estate broker to find me another property, which he did, a 2-family home, nice property, short sale. Went through the whole process, did it, now I have 2 homes. So my goal is, because I have children and I have godchildren, and my godchildren are my children. So my plan is to make sure that each one of them have a home so they won't have to rent or they won't have to worry about where they're going to live. That's my goal. And I'm establishing them now. I'm establishing them now as soon as they hit 18. See, some of us don't know. It's the credit. We don't know how to establish credit for our children. Well, somebody told me the way that you can establish credit for your children, especially if you have good credit, is to put your children on your credit card. Some of us don't know that. If we put our children on the credit card, after a year or so, their credit score will start rising and rising and rising to where now they can start purchasing and investing. So they don't have to start from the bottom. That's the way we have to teach our children. We have to teach them how to finance. We have to teach them how to really know the wants and the needs. And that's why, I decided, my mother and my father didn't start it, but they did buy a house, but they didn't buy enough property. So my job is, as the oldest of my mother's clan, is to buy, for family members, And I always have this, this heart that started from my grandmother. No matter what, if you was a family member, doors are always open. And my mother always told me, you can't do it for everybody, you can't do it for everybody, but you know what, we have to start somewhere, and you know what, families is everything to me, and and I love my community, and like Miss Terry says, it's how we buy the block, and that's what I want. I want a whole block.
Thank you. Wow. 23 and bought a home. It's amazing. Dating. So can you share,
Sure.
Can you share your story with us?
Sure. So I'm Thadeen. I'm a resident of Boston. I live in Hyde Park. I actually was an immigrant. I came to Boston at the age of 3.5 with my mom and 3 brothers, and my dad came a few years later. All my life, I watched my parents work really hard. So 10 years later, after my dad came here, my parents bought a 3-family home. So I was fortunate enough to experience my parents become homeowners. They did a good job at it. I went away to school, came back from college. I became a mom at the age of 22 years old. And living here in Boston, rent was really high. I wanted to go back to grad school, so I decided to make the decision to move back home with my with my parents, which was the best thing for me to do to save money. I gave myself a 2-year plan, which someone planted a seed in my head. My mentor, she said, don't leave your parents' home until you're ready to buy. And I had a long, hard conversation with myself. I thought about, how am I going to build wealth for myself? How am I going to measure my success for myself, not in the moment, but for the future? And I know buying a home was the way to do that. And so at the age of 29, as a single mom, I bought a one-family home in Hyde Park. And it's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Wow, fabulous. Thank you for sharing this. Poor Tina.
Hello.
Yes, hi. Can
Hi.
you share your story?
Sure. I was born and raised here in Boston. I grew up in Roxbury. And my story initially started, was like during the 90s, 96, 97. Was a time in the housing market, people were, or investors, folks were coming through the neighborhood and were giving people cash to buy their houses. And one of the things for our family, we were renting, and my parents worked very hard to put my sister and myself through college. And so we hadn't owned the house, so we were renting. And so there was a fear of getting a notice to leave the property because maybe the owner wanted to sell. And so that seed was planted to think about buying a house, and I was like, I had no idea where to start, but the seed also was resonated from my grandmother owning property in the South and having summers going down south and coming back home to Boston for school. And so I was like, I have no idea about the concept. I need to get a class. Where do I get a class? And I heard about MAHA actually on a radio ad on the radio station. And so I took a class, got educated on the process, and had a wonderful counselor named Ms. Florence Higgins, who was a first soft second homeowner. And the educational process helped me to find the one mortgage program used to be soft second, and that's how I got into homeownership. And part of that process was making sure that my family would have a place to live because of that fear of not knowing where we're going to go. And now, almost 15 years later, everything has come full circle that when my father passed, my mother lives with me, and she was secure in knowing she had somewhere to be, that she could rest her head and not have to worry that my father passed, where am I going to go? I was able to buy a house, and it's our family home, and she lives with me now. So the blessing of and security of that home is priceless.
Wow. So you started to talk about this, Cortina. What does it feel like to own a home versus to rent? Like, what does that feel like?
Freedom.
Freedom.
It's a beautiful feeling because home ownership, it's not always easy because there's challenges that come with owning a home. But if you plan accordingly and you budget and you understand what it takes and have a good savings to understand when repairs come into play, or there's certain situations or things that you have to handle, you have to be well prepared for it. But it's a sense of freedom because, one, for me, I know I'm building wealth for myself, and I know now I have something to leave back for my 15-year-old daughter. And owning a home, for me, it opened my eyes to other investment opportunities. It made sure that I had life insurance, a 401k plan, other investment opportunities. So I felt like owning a home not only gave me freedom, but led me into other investment opportunities for myself.
Well, home ownership, for me, is just, first of all, I'm the boss. Exactly. Let's get that. There can't nobody tell me to turn down my music, or you're doing this and you're doing that, or sorry, I'm not renewing your lease or whatever. I'm my own boss. That's the greatest feeling is that okay, I own a piece of something. I know for years our ancestors always talk about that 40 acres in the mule. Well, I'm chopping into that acre in that mule, and I'm coming for mine, and I'm gonna make sure the generation after me, follows right behind me. I mean, it's just a great feeling. People think that it costs a lot to own a home or to purchase a home, which it really doesn't. It costs literally like a down payment for a car you can own a home.
Yeah.
You know, all you have to do is just make sure that your ducks are in order, your paperwork, you have paperwork, you have a good job, and you have a great mindset, because you got to have that mindset. You just can't go into it and say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna buy a home, because if you go into it like, okay, this is my home, you know, I can do whatever I want to do or whatever, and don't take care of it, within a matter of time, you're gonna lose that home. You have to cherish that home like that home is like one of your children. You have to take care of it. I always tell people, when you buy a home, you know, wants and needs. And I always instill that in my kids, wants and needs. There's stuff that you want, but there's stuff that you need. So when you're a homeowner, you have to realize there's stuff that you want, but you really need to start saving money, because you're gonna have problems with that home coming down the line, you know, like buying a new furnace, new windows, whatever, but you gotta have that money saved up to when those problems come.
The mindset that you have to have, and you say wants and needs, and Thaddeus, you tell your story how you moved back home.
Yeah.
Where do you think that? Say, how do I describe it? How does someone know when they have that mindset? Like, what brings that mindset to you? Like, what brought the mindset at 23 for you to buy a home? Like, where does that mindset come from? I don't know if you can answer that, but there are a lot of people out there that don't have that mindset.
The mindset that came from me was growing up in the development of Mission Hill and the surroundings of it. And it's like, okay, you know, it's a great place to live, because then it was family. You know, everybody in the development is family. But you want better. You don't want to be stilled at one place. You want to be better. You want to own something to say, okay, to call your own. You know, so that's, to me, is, you know, and I try to instill this in even the young gentlemen who I grew up with. I try to, you know, okay, listen, this is what we can do. We can buy property, you know, and none of them had that mindset. Okay, nah, man, we don't want to buy no property. But then after years went by, you know, it felt great for them to come to me and say, you know what, man, I'm proud of you, you know, because you did what you said that you was going to do. You know, you went out and bought a home. We should have followed you, you know. So, I mean, it just takes, you know, sometimes people are just aren't ready for that. Sometimes people are just comfortable just being in a certain place. To me, I like to further my horizons. I like to broaden everything. I like to just go, you know. I just, you know, my mindset at a young age, everybody just thought, you know, the way I was thinking, I was older than what I was.
Old soul.
Also, but I was fed through a generation before me to say, you know what, this is what you can do. Don't have to settle for less.
So, Cortina, at Maha, I'm sure a lot of people come in and they have high rents, or they're in a situation that, you know, a landlord can throw them out. How do you talk to them about mindset? Like, you have to have the mindset.
Well, it's taking that time. When you're talking about the mindset, it's taking the time to realize what are some of your values, and thinking about there are some sacrifices and changing the way you do things. Like renting is one thing, owning's another. When you own, you're not going to call a management company up to come and fix something for you. I know a lot of people under duress, like, if I pay so much money, I'm paying almost $2,000 for rent, I should be able to buy a house. But you have to take a moment to step back, and that's why the educational piece is so important, to talk about, okay, I've got a budget for things. I got to really actually look at my budget and really think about where I'm spending my money. Would I be able to handle a mortgage payment? And then, oh my goodness, if the water heater breaks, I can remember when I first bought, and that savings, and thinking about how you're actually preparing. And so when you're taking the class, it puts you in that mindset to think about the realities of what is it going to take so that I can put myself in a position to be able to buy my home and stay there. Mm. It's not just, it's one thing to get it, it's another thing to maintain it. So it's really getting to a mindset that I may have to do things differently. Mm. I've got to look at my credit to be in a certain place, thinking about the wants and needs, Am I going to buy a single family? Am I going to be a landlord for the first time? And what's going to be required of me? How do I take good care of my tenants and vice versa, doing that process? So, you know, having the educational component and having the classes was beneficial, because when I was nervous and our family was like, okay, where are we going to be if we get this notice? I was like, I got to take a class so I can figure out how to do this right. Like, what are my options? What kind of programs are out there? How do I just put myself in a good position? And I feel like, you know, in the classes now, a lot of people feeling like they're under duress. As one of my coworkers, Ms. Percy, would say, buying a home is not about being under duress and having to do it. You want to put yourself in the best possible situation that's going to work for you and your family. We don't want to see people get into home ownership and then be in trouble and you're looking at foreclosure or other issues. I mean, life does happen, but with MAHA, it's about giving you a foundation and doing it right, along with a whole collaborative of other counseling agencies in our state that provide the class. But we want people to be in a good position. So education is definitely key, and it is possible. It is possible.
Each of you had mentioned family, you know, whether it's moving back in with family or thinking about your mom or thinking about your kids. What are the family considerations? Like, how does family play a role in this? I mean, is this something that you felt like you had to do on your own, or is it something where you were able to get family to help you do it?
Well, for me, my father helped me out. He guided me through the whole process on how to go about buying a house. He actually gave me the gift that I need to get the loan. You know, so I mean, he was the one, you know, that was the key to really helping me out. And then it was just like, okay, so when we get this house, we're just gonna make it a family house. Like for years, I owned the three-family house, and only 2 floors were rented out. I had the house since '93. My 3rd floor didn't get rent out until 2007. You know, and that's how we kept it. You know, because I was really nervous, about renting, because you heard so many horror stories, and it was like, okay, you know, I don't want to go through this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. You know, and then with my moms and pops, because I always feel for security, where, you know, you rent to other people, you don't know what baggage they're bringing in, and then you got your loved ones below them, and it's like, okay, you know, if something happens, then it's that, okay, did I fail? What did I do wrong? You know, so we just kept it just as a family, family home. So family has always been a big part, because most of the time, you know, my brothers and them, they cut the grass, they do little odd ends around the house when I'm at work, and it's just great.
Talking to family helped with the process, because I had family owners who did own. So I had to sit down and have conversations with them to see what home ownership was like for them. I know my parents owned a 3-family, and I watched them for years deal with tenants. And I knew for me, I said, I don't want to be a landlord. That made me push my decision to become a single-family homeowner. So that was part of my research project. I think my family was my research. They helped me kind of guide me in a direction of kind of where to go, but they also gave good advice on to, you know, what to do, what this work entails in being a homeowner. And I mean, ultimately, I'm a mother, so I think building wealth for my daughter, that was a big step for me becoming a homeowner, because it's huge. I bought a property that was, $215,000 8.5 years ago, and now it's worth $360,000. I'm automatically building wealth, so that's a good step.
Go, girl. So, programs. You mentioned programs, and MAHA is a fabulous program here in Massachusetts, and there are other programs. But how did you find out about these programs? How did you find out, Nadine?
Sure. So MAHA actually came to me after I did their post-purchase class. So after buying a home, you take a class and they teach you about how to sustain your home ownership, how to deal with contractors, how to...
So wait, so the classes you take before you buy a home, and then there's classes you take Once
after.
you after, okay,
Yes.
okay. I want to make sure
Which
everybody has heard that.
Which
okay.
is very beneficial because as a homeowner going in, I'm young. There's a lot of things I just didn't know. You ask friends, you ask family, but this class was very informative. And then after I did the class, Maha reached out to me for a meeting that they were having with the state rep. And I told my story about becoming a homeowner, losing my daughter's father passed away, and just how home ownership kind of helped with that healing process as well. And I kind of went around and started telling that story. And from there, I became a volunteer with Maha for the last, 7 years. Became a volunteer. Now I'm a board member. And I also ran a successful CPA campaign with Maha. So I think becoming a homeowner made me invest more in my community. And I started doing that, learning a lot from Maha. So you see me here, Maha is
It's a part of your life.
Part of my life.
Part of your life.
So I guess I could say ditto to that. Because initially I found Maha and took the class and did the same thing. And Ms. Florence, who's my first-time homebuyer counselor, was talking about the organizing piece. We've got a grassroots group, and I started volunteering. And before that, she said, "Okay, if you're interested and you fill out this form, someone's going to call you." And she meant business, and they called me, and I actually had my first bank. It was a bank meeting with citizens, and went to the meeting, shared a story, heard from the bank executive, and we walked out with agreements. Maybe it was 200 loan agreement of 200 homes that would be available for people in our state. And I was like, wow, this group is effective, because it wasn't all talk. We actually walked away with something that was tangible, and like, I might be able to get a house, with this bank. So. That was the start, and then I was blessed that a position had opened up and became part of the staff. So, really I feel like with Maha, it's really paying it forward, because there's so many people beforehand that allowed us to have our homes. And it was people of color in the very beginning during redlining here in Boston, in neighborhoods like Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, where people could get homes. And these organizers and people in the community, mostly women of color, came together. And that's how Maha was formed, because people didn't have access. In our communities. Now it's kind of like a reversal. We're kind of having this cycle, and it's not finished. We're paying it forward, and we need to do that for other families here in our city, throughout the state.
Yeah. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that the biggest difference between black and white wealth is home ownership and home equity, the amount of equity we have in our homes. And part of the reason that we don't own homes is because there was redlining going on, and that banks were not lending in our community. So it is sort of paying forward, because a lot of people fought, and a lot of people in this room fought to ensure that banks actually provided mortgages and home loans in black communities. And now we're moving forward and saying, how can we take advantage of these wonderful programs that are here? And I guess we're here in Boston, but really every city, I can tell you, Miami, LA, every city in the country has a Maha, has a program not exactly like Maha.
Not exactly.
but has a program to help people get into homes. So, whether it's, in fact, I say, Google it, wherever you live, Cleveland, Philly, whatever, Google first-time homebuyer programs in your community, and you'll find that these programs do exist.
Right.
And see, that's the thing with some, amongst us, we don't Google, we don't go searching for a first-time homebuyers program. We just think, okay, we gotta do this by ourselves. If they Google, and they'll find programs that are out there that are effective, that can really help them and guide them along step by step. Yeah. And they'll be surprised that just on their first home, they'd be everything. Yeah. There's so much stuff with.
No, and that's actually that's a good point too, because we do have a tendency to go into our little corner and feel like we got to figure this out all by ourselves, and we actually can help each other in figuring it out. So let's talk a little bit about the process, going through the process. So let's say you have a program, and that you take a first-time homebuyers class, and sort of walk us through what's the process that someone needs to go through in order to buy a home.
So as you're going, just starting the process, one of the wonderful things about we're part of a collaborative of counseling agencies. So folks come into the class, get the foundation of the home buying process, various resources available to them as first-time home buyers, including mortgage programs. And we're fortunate, here in the state and in the city, there's things like down payment closing cost assistance, which is based on the municipality that city or town someone purchases in, and you learn about all this in the class. And it's like once you finish your class, some people may say, you know what, I took the class, but I'm not quite sure about my next steps. And so with our organization and many others is a process of a next steps or counseling session that one can partake in. It's not mandatory, but it's of the choice of the class graduate. We can sit down with a counselor and go over your financial affairs, looking at your credit, looking at your finances and seeing where you are to do an assessment and talk about those next steps for you as an individual to get you ready so you can get pre-approved for a mortgage. So, there's a step process to that, getting folks ready for that.
That process, I think, is one of the things that people have a lot of fear about or concerns about. It feels very intrusive. Like you're saying you're going to pull up my credit score. You're going to ask me for what information. I'm just sort of playing like I don't know, but what kind of information you want from me?
It's interesting with the credit scores. It's like with credit scores today, it's in order for you to rent or a job, they're going to require pulling your credit. So I think that's part of the norm, and people are getting used to that being asked of them, and part of that is getting good understanding. So with the, going through the class, the counselor is explaining to you, it's part of the class, but even after when you're doing your next steps, is having that one-to-one time to just identify what's there, and if there's problems, teaching people themselves how to resolve those issues that are there so that folks are not feeling they're at the will of someone else to pay them to do so. It's like we want people to be empowered to be able to go through that process to put themselves in a good place and stay there. So, part of that is helping with that assessment of why and not being scared of it. There's nothing to be scared of, but it's giving people the tools and education so that they know what they need to do in moving forward. So,
in fact, I think one of the things, and you sort of mentioned it, is that there are solutions to whatever, sort of issues that people have. And they, tend to think that I don't want to share because part of it is that you think that there's no solution. But there are solutions, whether it's looking at your budget, right, or looking at how you can improve your credit.
It's almost necessary because it prepares you. If you're not prepared, the counselor will help you get prepared for that next step. So then if you're all good, you're all settled, and you work with your counselor and you're ready for that stage, you're going to know what you're pre-approved for. So then you can start to go out and look for that home. And you know what price range you're looking for your home in, so that you're buying a home that you can afford, you can pay the mortgage and also cover the other expenses. So it's necessary. It may seem intrusive, but it's part of the process. And you should also look at it as a way of someone helping you to develop yourself. So again, that goes back to the mindset. All these things come into play so you can get yourself ready for that future step going forward.
Let's say I'm in a relationship. And I have good credit, but my partner doesn't. Like, what do I do?
Well, what do you do is, are you really in love? Are you really in love? But no, the thing about it is, see, people look at credit and look at bad credit like it's a disease. You can fix your own credit. People don't understand. You can fix your own credit. You don't have to go to organizations that's going to charge you all this money to fix your credit. All you have to do is pull up your credit report, look at what you've done wrong, because some of the stuff that's on there, you probably didn't put on there. And all you have to do is just write a couple of letters and send them to the credit bureaus and to the agencies who report them, and you'd be surprised how fast they'll come off. Your credit score, you really have to manage that. That should be part of your budget, because you have to have credit for everything. Everything in today in society, you got to have credit for. So you have to go in there like with the mindset of, okay, well, you know what? I got to pay this bill. I got to pay this bill. And that's where the wants and needs come, because you might see this nice shoes or this nice bag over there, but you have to pay your bill. You know, some people like, oh, I'll pay my bill next week, but that deadline done passed to where now you done mess up your credit score. Even if you send the minimum in, just keep that money going in. You know, if you have the money, my thing is just send it in so you don't miss it. Just send it in. Don't wait until the deadline to say, okay, I'm gonna send it in, and you pass that deadline. Just send it in. You just gotta keep a good flow of records showing that you pay your bills on time. They don't, you know, people think, well, what if I pay this much and what if, no, they don't care how much you pay. Just pay the minimum. That's all they care about. You pay the minimum. All they want to see is just payment paid. They want to pay the minimum. Now, if you have a partner that's have bad credit and they don't have that same mindset, then you really have to think to yourself, like, do I want to be in this relationship? It's true because you know to me, you know, your partner have to have the same mindset that you have, and if they don't have the same mindset that you have, you know, they're gonna be the ones holding you back, you know, and you're gonna be like, well, okay, you're gonna be carrying all the weight, all the burden, all the everything, you know. Well, honey, we need this. Well, baby, you got the good credit, you know. No. You have to work. You got to be. You know, you have to be on the same accord. You can't be. You know, I mean, if that person don't want to learn, then listen. Like I said, you must be really in love. Exit.
I believe financial matters should definitely be a topic of discussion that you have with your partner before you think about taking that next step to home ownership, because you want to make sure that you guys are on the same page, because you want to be able to keep your home. If you can't, if you buy a home and there's only one person carrying that weight, why did you? So, I mean, you know, financial matters are number one reasons why people get divorced. So I think it's an honest conversation that you need to have. Again, it goes back to the mindset, building wealth, and how do you do that? So I think you help your partner if y'all have that conversation. You work and go to an agency like Maha, and you go together, take the class together, and work on fixing the credit so you can move to that next step.
How about savings? Okay, let's say I have good credit or decent credit enough to qualify, but I don't have a lot of money saved up. It's hard to save when it takes a lot just to live. What are some of the solutions? I mean, how do I get past? I mean, is it 20% I got to put down on a home these days?
No. For me, I did the soft second program, which is now called OneUnited, One Mortgage. And so for me, it was a 3% down payment that I had to put down. I had money saved in the bank, so my down payment was, I think, like $5,000. The city matched the half of that, so I only needed $5,000 to put down to buy my home. And that with that mortgage program, that's why the One Mortgage and the Soft Second at the time is a program that's great for the city, because it gave me as a single mom a chance to become a homeowner with a low down payment with a good affordable mortgage. So that's
So it's about the education, but it's also about the programs, the low down payment programs like the One Mortgage, and there's some others that fit for other folks. So the low down payment features an entryway, the issue of down payment closing cost assistance, and sometimes part of that mindset is also reality check of maybe I might have to wait a couple of years and do some savings and work, because there's different solutions for various situations. So it goes back down to the mindset, the budgeting, and having true conversations with ourselves first, and determining what am I going to sacrifice, what do I need to do to get to the next level. It's great to have assistance, but it's also the responsibilities that I would, to yourself, what do I have to do? I might have to save a little bit more and wait a year. It all depends on where people are. Everybody's in different places.
Yeah. I mean, some people, they want a brand new car. I asked them, okay, you got a brand new car, but you're renting. I mean, it doesn't make sense, because with that money that you're spending on that brand new car is your down payment right there. People have to understand, their wants and needs. It's just, I tell people all the time, like, okay, I drive the raggediest truck there is. I'm not ashamed, to tell people, and I don't want a brand new car yet, because I'm not done buying property. And people have to realize is when you buy a car, that is reported on your credit score, and that can help, you know, keep you down from buying that home, because the creditors look at that like, okay, well, you have a car payment, so how are you going to be able to make your mortgage payment? If you're going to buy a new car, you wait till you get your home, you wait till you're established. I mean, Boston, you have the T that goes everywhere, so get a T pass, until you buy your home, and get a T pass. I mean, you really have to think about, and I always keep saying wants and needs. If you really want that house, you will do everything it takes to get that house, and especially, if you want your kids to see you working hard for something, then they can say, okay, you know what? I seen my mother, I seen my father work hard to get this home. So now that gives them, the drive to say, okay, well, I'm gonna do it. But if they don't see you do it, they're gonna be just like, okay, well, moms and pops didn't do it, so why should I do it?
And family can also help with a gift of lending you money if you're thinking about buying a home. I know I also had my 401k as a backup plan for the banks to see that I had money saved and you were saving. So I think it's, for me, I decided it was a 2-year plan. I moved back home with my parents. So it's a decision that you have to make to slowly start to save.
When you did that, when you made that decision to move back home, how hard was that? I mean, to move back home, or sort of see,
It's very hard because you're out of college, you're, embarking on a new career path, you're, looking to get a great job. I didn't get a great job right offhand, so struggling to pay rent, it was hard, and paying daycare and being a new mom. So you see all your friends who don't have kids traveling, going on great trips. So it's kind of like, I can't go. I'm saving. I can't. But I had a bigger goal in mind. So I sacrificed a lot, but it was a big reward in the end. I knew going in that I was going to have to make a lot of sacrifices, but I had a bigger reward coming in the end, and that's what happened for me.
I remember that. Just budgeting, I think, like Terry said, like yourself, is like getting different habits and doing the budgeting. And I can remember coming back from school and working, and I had to come back home, and then doing this commute. And I had to think about, I have this car, but I needed the car to commute to a job that was outside of Boston. It was like in Framingham. And then I had to have the car, but then I had to wait and save. And it took some time, but it was a blessing to be able to stay at home, do the saving, deal with the car, and then those student loans were coming in. And then trying to, figure out how that was going to add to the debt. So it was just a lot of the planning. What do you actually need? And so I had to wait and save. And then I think by the time I was able to buy, I probably had less than 10 months on the car, so that I didn't have to worry about that, because there's different things you learn in class. Like some lenders won't, if it's going to take you less than 10 months, they won't count that debt. So you want to have as less debt as possible. You want to save as much and try to clear up some of those credit cards and other things that you may have there. So I can remember doing that as well, and just having to just wait.
So we've talked about credit, we've talked about budgeting, wants and needs. Let's say, okay, I've done everything. I've got my credit, it's good. I dropped my partner that didn't know the credit. I got some savings, but I can't find a home. How does that work? I mean,
well,
I look at, Boston's a very expensive place. In fact, all the cities we're in, cities in general. Okay, in fact, I didn't say whether it's Miami, LA, Boston, whether it's Philly. I mean, homes are expensive. What can we do? How do you find a home?
Well, you really have to have a real estate broker who you can trust to know what you like, to be out there doing the research for you. And not only that, you have to do the research yourself. You really have to look to where you want to be, how much you can afford a home. So your broker is really like, your go-to person to go out there and find you a home that you can afford. He know how much you can afford, and you want that, within. And also, I tell people all the time, there's other ways, because you'd be surprised that if you go through a neighborhood, you might just be word of mouth. Somebody might just be selling a home that's not even on the market, and you be like, oh yeah, I'm looking for a home, and they be like, okay, and they sell you their home. I mean, it's a whole lot of ways, you can buy a house. So I tell people all the time, there's no way that you shouldn't be able to buy a house unless the neighborhood that you're in is just way too expensive for you. Then you might have to just further out and just go out and just buy a home because you just can't afford within that neighborhood.
Well, I think there's, definitely different ways when we, in the classes we talk about the different dynamics of building your team and talking about working with a real estate broker, and there's different types of brokers out there, and just kind of giving people, what their options are, if it's online, open houses, things of that nature. Another thing, just thinking about that process, is other opportunities where there are affordable homes that are deed-restricted, but there's subsidy to bring down the price, so there's affordability. Just like what we there's a website people can go to find out more information, like Mass Affordable Homes, that can see there's affordable home ownership opportunities, but it's not as many as there could be.
Yes.
And I know that's one thing that we, as an organization, we, want to make sure that people, as a family, continue to have access for families all across the state. And there's other ways that I know the members that we work for at MAHA are very concerned about making sure there's more affordable homes or inventory access to more homes, because like you said, Terry, a lot of our family members and friends and neighbors are having to move outside the city. And so we want to be creative on finding ways to create more affordable opportunities in the city for those who would like to stay. I feel like people should have an option on whether they can stay, or if they want to leave, they should have a choice. So I know that, one of the things Nadine will share, she worked really hard on a resource here in the city.
Which is the Community Preservation Act. In November, 74% of Boston voters voted yes. It's a property surcharge of 1%. And that money that's being collected is going to generate at least $20 million in revenue into the city of Boston. And it can only go towards affordable housing, preserving historical building, and creating green spaces. So I encourage everyone to really pay attention to Community Preservation Act, as it's in the implementation stages now, but it will begin next year. But this is a way of how we can start building more affordable more affordable housing in the city of Boston, because the prices are skyrocketing, and we are having an issue with affordable housing. And this can absolutely help us start changing that.
One of the things that I see in our communities is that we want to leave our communities. I mean, we look around and we're like, this community has been down for so long, and so there may be some affordable homes. They may not. They may need some fixing up, or they may be on a block that, we for many years didn't think was a great block, but we don't see what's in the horizon. And so, do you all see that as well? That there's some places in our community where we could buy, but we feel like we want to go somewhere else because we've been in our community for too long. I don't know if
Well, with me, I love my community, so I'm not going nowhere. I see the wealth within my community, and we as a people have to see the wealth in our community. Growing up in a development to where everything was family, we cleaned our hallways. So if we clean our neighborhoods ourselves and not worry about everybody else coming to clean our neighborhoods, then that's a home. We have to make our neighborhood our home. We have to clean it up, because everybody else sees wealth in our neighborhood but us. So we're fast to leave, but then when we look back, we're saying to ourselves like, well, what happened? Well, you don't gave up something that they've been waiting for so long, because you don't see the wealth. I mean, we have all these investors coming in here, and they're coming in strong, but so we have to see wealth. And that's why I always say, my properties, I have a will. My kids cannot sell my properties. No way, no how, no go. If you don't want it, I got nieces and nephews who want it and cousins who want it, but my properties are not for sale. I don't care who it is. You can't sell the property, because I know the wealth. It's like we have diamonds you know, in the walls, but we're bypassing it because all we see is the cold.
Yeah, I was heartbroken when I wasn't able to buy in Roxbury. I grew up here and just couldn't afford it as people looking now. And I thought about the value where folks were leaving. It's like, no, I want to stay near the hospitals. The airport is like maybe less than 30 minutes away. Just looking at the value and the vision and being able to see that. And so, you know, definitely with some homes that are in other places in the neighborhoods across the city of Boston, there are jewels that are there. And sometimes people have to consider maybe they might have to do like a purchase rehab possibly if they can. And then resources through our different cities and towns as well. And just part of that is doing the homework and educating yourself. So you learn about that even when you're sitting down doing your classes and with the counselor. So there's opportunities there, but definitely, I definitely saw the value. And I love Dorchester. That's where I bought my house. But Roxbury is always, you know, the memories of my childhood and being here. So I hope other folks will see the value and consider staying in town as well. So
yeah. I think it's just a matter of people just really, really paying attention to what's really out there and just investing in your neighborhood. Like I said, as I became a homeowner, I wanted my street repairs. If a light's broken, I'm calling to get the light fixed. Like, you make phone calls, there's things that can be done, but people just assume that it's just someone's supposed to just come out and do it. You have to make the calls. You have to show up for the city council meeting. You have to go out and advocate. You have to become involved in your local community group, like how I became involved with MAHA. And I didn't know anything about advocating and making change, but I've learned over the 7 years I've been with them, and I've helped make a lot of change. And I think if we turned out in larger numbers and people to start to see the community paying attention, we are stronger as a voice. We're bigger, and if we come out and we advocate and we talk and we point out what's wrong, we can create that change that we want. It's there. It's definitely there.
So we only have, and first of all, that was fabulous. We only have a few more minutes left. I would like to learn a little bit more about MAHA specifically for those in our audience. And again, this is just one example of a program, but tell me a little bit about MAHA and the history.
So, as we started, or part of the conversation, MAHA, the organization itself, came out of the issue of redlining. And in 1989, the Federal Reserve had documented or reporting of evidence of inequality of lending in the city of Boston. And people in the community came together with folks like from Mass Housing Partnership, Mass Bankers, and then with our legislators in the city and state, and came together with those lenders to create the soft second mortgage program, which is now the One Mortgage program, because the needs for low and moderate income families were not being met. There weren't affordable mortgage programs, and so people in the community sat down with the administrators and folks to help design the soft second mortgage program. And the reason why we're still here is because of people in the community like yourselves were at the table to create the program to make sure that people could buy their homes in our city throughout the state, because it's not just the city of Boston, it's a statewide program. And the reason, like I said, it's here is because of individuals like yourself that are sitting here. People in the community made the investment in the program along with lenders like yourself. And thank you very much to OneUnited and other lenders that provide the program and the partnerships. It's all about partnerships. People in the community being part of the process, with lenders like yourself being part of the process, and people being part of that. Part of what MAHA is about, the program, but it's about education. So we do counseling, giving people the foundation of the process. We also make sure that we counsel folks not just in the beginning and they go get their certificate and they go out there. We're there for you for the long haul during the duration. If people have questions about refinancing, maybe things in life happen. I mean, God forbid if someone loses their job or there's a death in the family, we're a resource to help people figure out what are my next steps, what are some of the things we need to do in addition to other counseling partners. And the other piece of that is getting people activated in the community, because it's one thing to be a homeowner. Homeownership helps to stabilize our community. When you think about when there was redlining and how our communities came together, and you had people of color and other families coming together with homeownership, it just helps to stabilize so you can do other things like sending your children to college. When you're talking about how we used to have block parties and things of that nature, that unity of a family, we want to get back to that. And that's what homeownership does for our community. So, part of MAHA is really like a family, to be quite honest with you. And it's training people to get involved in the process. Yes, we talk about homeownership, but we also talk about being involved in, like Thaddeus so eloquently shared, about getting involved in voting. If there's things in our community that we see that are wrong, we can work with our legislators on a city level, state level, to make things better in our communities. So there's a lot of things we can do together, and that's part of, not, homeownership is one piece, but coming together and organizing as a people, as a family, truly, there's nothing we cannot do if we put our heads together. We have a lot of the answers to some of the issues we have. It's just a matter of coming together to do that. And that's what, part of what MAHA is about. And I don't know if there's other things that you want to add. Just that experience, I'm just really proud of her and our other members to see people be able to buy their homes is a blessing. I was able to do it, but paying it forward and seeing people organize themselves in other things with your daughter at school, other community things that happen, organizations. I see a lot of our members getting active in so many different things. If it be programs for young people, it's one thing about homeownership, but I'm seeing it spill over into other parts of their lives with the organizing, and it's really great to see how people have come together to make our community so much better. So thank you to Terry and.
Well, first of all, I want to share your numbers, because your numbers are just astounding. It's like something like over 20,000.
Over 20,000 individuals and families have used the One Mortgage program to buy their homes in our state, and it's a blessing.
Wow.
It's a blessing.
And yes, and the other thing about the One Mortgage program is that a higher percentage of your members, as I guess you call them, are Black than the general mortgages that are done out in Massachusetts. And so not only are you in large numbers, but you are actually increasing the diversity of home ownership. If anyone looks at the numbers, it's really sad at this point that the home ownership rate of white Americans is over 70%, and for Black Americans, it's about 40%. It's a 30% gap.
Yes.
So the One Mortgage program is helping to narrow that gap. So it's just the numbers are just amazing.
Yes.
Yes, it's a major concern that we have this racial homeownership gap, and part of what our work is about is to close that gap, and I know that we can definitely do that with you and others. So we have work to do. We want to replace that.
Work to do. So any last minute thoughts you have, recommendations? Think of somebody out there, your best friend, your sister, your brother. Like, what can you say to them to say, okay, you can do this, you can do it?
Well, first, I just want to say thank you, and thank you to your staff. Thank you to my advisor, the one that was by my side when I refinanced my home, Miss Eleanor. Thank you, thank you. You have an excellent staff, I must say, from the Boston staff to the California staff. I mean, I know the California staff didn't get in until later on that day, but I forgot the young lady's name.
Anita.
Who called me, like before she started work. It was like, oh yeah, we got you. I'm like, and that's what people need to know, that when you can build a relationship with a bank, to go in there and somebody can just help you, walk you through the process, have all your paperwork for you, that paperwork that you gave, they made copies for you and made copies for themselves, so they don't have to keep calling you, well, we need this, we need that, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. It can be done. People always say, oh, well, OneUnitedBank is a small bank. OneUnitedBank is a community bank. And that's what you want, because you have these big banks out here who don't care about you. They don't care one cent about you. They just want your money. They just want you to come in. But you want to go to a bank to where you can feel at home, where you can feel like, okay, I can come and talk. You can just come in and just really feel comfortable. So I thank you for OneUnitedBank and your staff.
Thank you, Terry.
My gem that I want to share is, life, nothing's planned, but I feel like if you are prepared, things can be done. I came out of college thinking I was going to be married, a mom, and own a home. Didn't happen. I became a single mom going to buy my home, and you can be a single mom or a single parent or a young professional, and you still can buy a home. It's not a challenging process. It really, really can be done. So I encourage everyone to think about security and stability, and that knowing that buying a home builds wealth, and building wealth gives you the freedom, it gives you options, it gives you a lot of options in life. So I just want someone who's looking at it just to see a young woman like myself, an African American young woman in the city of Boston being able to do that, and you can absolutely do that too.
Well, first of all, I want to just thank you, Terry, for the opportunity to be here, and also our partners that are here as well. And I think Thaddean said it all, but I guess my last word is just anything is possible, and it's about getting the knowledge and education. Seek it out. You can do it. It is possible.
Well, yes. Well, first of all, I want to thank each of you really for sharing your personal story and for being here, and really I think sort of sparking that interest amongst our community to buy the block, to buy black, to buy homes in our community, to invest in our community. And it's just it's one thing as a banker to sort of say, oh, you should do this, but it's another thing to really hear it from people that have done it. So I want to thank you. I also want to thank Maha. I said this before we were on camera, but I want to thank you for your patience with us. OneUnited, we continue to grow, and we feel fortunate to be able to offer the One Mortgage program. We feel fortunate to be able to partner with organizations here in Boston and Massachusetts, as well as in Miami and LA. And really, we see our future is bright. There's a J. Cole song that I love that just really speaks to this, but it really talks about how I have this intuition that things are going to get better. And
Oh, it sure is.
Yes.
yes.
That's a-
So, on that, thank you all. And I don't know if we can turn that so everybody can see. Can you do that? No, yes, we can. Yes, we can. I know we can. We can. Yes, we can. So we're going to turn it around so everybody can see. And you all can wave to all the folks out there. Just give it a try. Give it a try. Say hi! Hey! Boston in the house! Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks.